Hello, my name is Tristan Johansson, and this is my Unit 3, Chapter 5 reflection video. Focal point, or emphasis, is the most visually important thing in the design. It's the viewer's first impression of the whole of your design. The focal point gains the audience's attention immediately. That being said, it's important to have a focal point. It holds the audience's attention and engages them with your design. Without a focal point, viewers are lost on where to look and get bored. Also, one focal point is all that is necessary for a design. Otherwise, the audience is lost where to look and then get bored. Same as if you didn't have a focal point at all. Pictures clustered in a cloud, each with their own focal points, need to have a focal picture. When designing, the rule of thirds is a helpful rule to remember when setting the focal point. The chair in this image here is the focal point. A combination of the fact that it's prominent in the foreground and its high contrasting color, and it being alone in the foreground here. Contrast is used to avoid being visually boring. Contrast is to add something of interest and break the monotony of the design. Contrast can be achieved by using different colors, patterns, shapes, textures, and in most simple terms, just do something different. This image here has the orange contrasting with really everything about the picture. The fact that the orange has any kind of texture while the background is completely plain. The orange being, well, orange, while the background is a light sky blue, is just completely contrasting with everything. Balance. Thought of as like a visual weight, like the seesaw that the book talked about, like weighing one side to the other, trying not to lay in one side too heavily. There's radial, symmetrical, and asymmetrical balance. Radial is wherever it is split, has two symmetrical halves no matter where it's split on a radial. Symmetrical has two mirrored halves that can be stuffy and boring if it's used too frequently. It is not very visually interesting. Whereas asymmetrical is more interesting visually than symmetrical. It's weighted more and has a focal point off to one side. Darker tones and larger shapes are heavier than lighter tones and smaller shapes, meaning the darker tones and larger shapes would pull more to one end and the lighter tones would not be as heavy on attention. Now up here in the picture, the rocky shores with the person down at the bottom left is probably the focal point down here where this guy is. It's right on the intersection of the thirds here. It's very dark and takes up a decent chunk of the page, or of the image here. So it would probably be a little heavy, but the sunlight coming in, giving the rock's reflection a lighter tone, definitely alleviates some of that. Also, the sunbeams up here, lightening these cliffs and mountains back here. Also, these rocks jutting up from the ocean make the other part of the image a little bit heavier, a little bit darker, not having it be so weighted over to this side here. Movement. Lines guide eye flow across design. Horizontal lines communicate horizontal movement, like in this image here, just moving from one end to the other, leading up to the man digitally here. Vertical lines communicate stability or no movement at all, similar to trees being rooted in the ground and buildings being sturdy, just no movement whatsoever. However, these vertical lines can also represent inspirational upward movement, like mountaintops and clouds and skyscrapers. Diagonal lines can be exciting, can represent exciting movement or communicate distance, like a road intersecting with the horizon off in the background. Curved lines are a more meandering movement. Movement can be simultaneous, but too many crisscrossing movement lines should be avoided. It starts to look busy. And most importantly, movement controls the eyes, so you have to use it wisely to guide eyes to focal points and guide them in the direction that you want them to be looking. Rhythm and pattern can create movement. Repeating items strategically using repeating themes, colors, like images, layouts, fonts create rhythm and sets a tone for the whole design. And when you start setting up a rhythm and a pattern, the audience starts to know what to expect and knows how you want them to feel and will start to feel that way. And unity is a bit more abstract, the principle that all the elements in a design unite together with at least one likeness to create the whole design. Our minds like uniform design. They like to know what to expect. They like to fit your design into a box, and they like to know what your design means. United and orderly designs, they make sense and are easy to follow for our brains, whereas chaotic designs confuse the audience, and that can occasionally be used to the advantage of artists, like abstract artists. Thank you for watching my presentation.